My name is Papa Richie, and you're tuned into the Griot in me. Me. I arrived in Canada April 22nd, 1969. I was young, I was like 5. The airport didn't have all that security. You ran off the tarmac and you ran inside to meet my dad, who was already here from England. We were coming from Jamaica. I think it was an easy transition for us because we were young and we were getting into the school system, right? We were able to formulate friendships. And when we end up living where we're living today, my parents bought a house the first year and a half they were here. They got into a house. And my dad said, he opened the door, we ran inside, and he says, now you can make as much noise as you want. And it was in the glebe, so we were like, we got a tennis court, we had a field 1 block away, we had a lot of stuff. The growth of the Black population in my community. When we were just here, there was a handful and pockets of people that really knew each other. So when we went out, you actually knew the people. The only difference was it was levels. Some of us were young, some were here. Some were able to go when they wanted to. I had to ask 10 times if I had to go out when I got to teenager status. But that's a part of West Indian background and growing up. Well, I'll tell you what I did. I got my first job in 1988. I was in Jamaica. I went to Algonquin after high school, and I went to study informatics, IT, basically. And after that, I was good. But like stepping back, when I was in high school, I got to do a workshop at D&D at Tunney's Pasture. While I was in high school studying, I was doing computers. I went to Ottawa Technical High School to finish off. So I did that. And then after I went on to college and did IT. And then after that, I went to Jamaica after I finished school. I said, Mom, buy me a ticket. I'm finished school. Let's go. I'm out. So I went to Jamaica. My mother called me in Jamaica, called me and said that I had an offer for a job. I should come home. So I came home and I had an offer for a job. So I ended up working for Cognos Incorporated. I'm not really doing that anymore. I worked in that area for like 8 years. And when we started in that field, I basically would do everything. But that was 88, 89, 90. So coming back, a laptop was $5,000 back then, right? So I basically worked my way up. Yeah, so I basically worked my way up from just being a person who just operated, to a person who trained people, to actually being a supervisor and a manager for my unit at that place until I got laid off. And the story went on like that because I went from Cognos to Indian Northern Affairs, and then from Indian Northern Affairs I ended up at Newbridge Networks. And then I said, okay, this is enough. So I ended up doing construction and working my way up again and became a foreman and managed jobs and stuff like that. When I was about 15, I had an opportunity to go on Junior Smith's Reggae in the Fields program. So I used to collect records. So I went there with some records I didn't think he had, and I got to play music for like, 15 minutes or so. And that was the thing. He said, you should get your own program with you. I said, yeah, whatever. I didn't think that would happen. But I was working at the airport, and my friend, Clem Wiley, said he had a friend named Glenna Chow that worked at this radio station, CHUO at the time. And he says, they want to give you a reggae program, because I told them about you. And it took me like a month before I got here and came here and said, okay, my name is Richard, And it started from there. And that was like 1983, 84, right? And it just, we were basically broadcasting to the university. We weren't online, weren't on air, and all that. So basically, it's the engagement with the community and what we were able to do. We've done a lot of things being on community radio, whether just being able to do the interviews, engaging with the community, or actually helping the community through problems that they've had. i.e., a lady had aneurysm and burnt out of her house. We were able to fight for her to get back into housing, which the city said that they didn't have. And we fought, and we went on CTV, CJOH, and we fought, and we got it, and we got it for her. So we've been able to use this medium as something great for our community. Life's taught me to be humble, right? Life has taught me to be patient and to look out and help who you can help if you have the ability to do so. Because you never know where you may need help, but not necessarily doing it for that regard, just basically doing it for what you can do and why you're doing it. I don't think there's a lot to change because children have grown up, they've gone to school, they've been educated. They've created their own spaces and they're doing their own things. We had a meeting at the Impact Hub last week, and when I went there, I saw a whole community of Black youth in there around the table. I didn't ask what they were doing, what program project they were working on, but they are there working. So with education and knowledge comes all the requirements needed to do what you have to do. So therefore, everybody has a vision and they're enabled now. It's not like when I was growing up, we didn't have all that out there for us. There was very few of us as youth, and we didn't have what we have today. So I think they're more cohesive, and they come together and they get what they want done. And they also have a role to have use their imagination to get what they want. So we just need to grow together. I just think we need to just stay together, stick together, and for one outcome or one goal. Look to the future, don't be so transient, and definitely look back at the history of the people that created things and for you to enjoy what you have today. Before I was on radio, I had an uncle. Everybody has an uncle, right? So I had an Uncle George. He was on Skyline Cablevision, and he had a program that came on Sundays called Sounds Black. That was on the TV. So people would turn on their TV and just listen to the music play on the TV. And they had pictures of the Caribbean, So the youths of today will not know that. That was one of the things that was as a foundation. But that was one thing that we had to look forward to, right? Then we had TV programs. I forget, it's eluding my mind right now. But we had a TV program, it's still on. It was on Rogers. And that program's been on for years. Caribbean Calendar, that's the name of the program. And it's been on for years. So the youth of today may not know that we had all those programs. When they had Bob Marley here, that was one of the programs it was aired on, right? So those are programs, those are footholds, cornerstones for what we have today, community-wise, and the foundation. And so says entertainment. If we didn't do what we did to forge ahead in entertainment as youths, like when there was parks, dancing in a park on a Sunday, hip hop in the park on a Sunday, that's not happening today. But it happened then, and we could gather and play music in the park. Retired? But I don't know. I'm going to do what I can do as long as I can do it for. I think that a lot of things to do with music and do with radio right now has changed. I've done radio here in Canada, and I've used that platform to do that same thing in the UK when I went to the UK, to visit, even to be on radio there. And I've done it in Jamaica, on commercial radio in Jamaica. Actually just visit. One of the biggest stories I have is the fact that I went to go to RGR and I just wanted to visit and see what's going on. My friend said, oh, you should go, they'll interview you, blah, blah. So I went on radio, and the first 5 minutes after I went on there and started talking, he said, you can't go, you can't leave. I said, what do you mean? Because he told me initially I had 15 minutes. He said, you can't leave. I said, why can't I leave? He said, because the whole phone lines are lit up. Everybody wants to know who you are and where you're from. So you have to just stay with us. And I told a joke about somebody here that he says, ask me what the funniest thing that happened on radio. I was on radio and I told him a story, and the place just went nuts. And people were downstairs in the office and said, who is this person? I've never heard anybody sound like me. And I said, oh, that's crazy. But basically back then, it's like, that was like 90s. And what they said is if they didn't give you the wiper, which is the wiper like leave, you're good to go. You're sold. You're good. So every time after that I visited my friend and went to there, I go. Like even the great Neville Willoughby, who was on radio for many years, and an entertainer, when he came into the studio that day, he said, who's Papa Richie? And he basically, Richie B pointed to him and said, he's right there. He says, you're doing a good job. You sound really, really, really good. So that made a difference. And when you have people, through that, I've met some of the most serious individuals in the Jamaican music industry, because I spent time on radio in Jamaica. Some of the biggest names I've met. I went somewhere one day and I was just talking on a veranda. And a man just kept on looking at me. And he's saying to his cousin, who we traveled from England with to go down there, and he says, where do I know you? I said, how do you mean? And my friend said, Bubbly says, no. He was on the radio with Richie B, that's what you heard him. That's when I realized a lot of people in Jamaica listen to radio. And that's what happened. He said, that's why I know your voice. And that was the day before that I was on radio. And I was at his house on speaking. The guys just staring at me and going like, wow. So it hasn't had an impact, you know what I mean? I think a lot of things that can be done and will be done is for generations, if you're gonna take this seriously. Most DJs wanna take this as a mix show. There's not a lot of knowledge imparted. I have a show where I depart knowledge. I depart knowledge for what I know, for whatever I have to do. So if it's about music history, I'm going to tell you about music history because I was a part of Jamaican music history for whatever years I was alive and whatever years I was begun, working in recording studios in Jamaica, being around elder musicians and artists, sitting on the sidewalk talking with them. So, I can basically say like I was there for certain things. So once you have that knowledge, my family's been in music, my uncle's been on the Trojan Records, 4 albums, coming out, doing his things, so music has been around my life. One of the greatest stories I do remember though, is my father telling me like, he didn't know what I was gonna turn out to be, but if you have to give a record to a baby to hold in his hand to keep him quiet and fall asleep, most children want toys. My dad had to put a record, a 45 in my hand to hold on to, for me to go to sleep. He says, I don't know what's gonna become of this child, but whatever works. I think the 90s was a time where people were just coming together and expressing themselves. We had clubs, people were dressing, we had cachet, people were going out, being in opulence and having that vibe, that part. We were young, we were energetic, and we had spaces to do. People were getting out and working. So people were still in university. Like a lot of people that came out were in university at that time as well too. I mean, some people like me, I was like a couple of years ahead and I already had a job, right? When a lot of my friends were in university, I had a job. I was working, tie, jacket, shirt, briefcase in hand, man, on the bus, going to work, going to my office, sitting down, doing what I had to do. And entertainment-wise, people were out. They were out and living it. And there was a lot of unity. I think there was a lot of unity. People would come out and enjoy themselves. And the thing about this city that I'd like to mention is that people would come from outside and they go like, this is a real family environment. It was a close-knit community. People would come from those are the Fort Drum years. Guys would come from Fort Drum here to party. Who does that? They don't do that now. They came from Fort Drum to come to Ottawa to party on weekends. So what did it have to say about the city? The city was alive. It was really, really alive. You know, as people grow and move on, I believe the attitudes change. So whereas we used to do certain things in the 90s, the kids in the early 2K, or the 2K era, there was lots of different things. More technology came your way. Because just think about computers, phones, 1994, 1991, blah, blah, blah. We don't have I think there was some StarTacs, and still late 80s they had the bricks. But they still had they had the brick phone, man. You know what I mean? They had the brick phone. And StarTac, a StarTac phone, a little flip phone, things like that. So just to think about those span of years, things have changed. And technology really played a role into a lot of things that have happened and to make a city evolve. So everybody evolved with the times. People who used to go out before don't go out. They have other responsibilities. Work, school, children. It means a lot because it's just another position for me to express myself as far as where I'm coming from and where I have reached within the realm of my community. And a lot of stories, there's still more to be told, but being able to exercise your mind and let people who are coming up after you lets you know that we all started somewhere. We all have history. And it took basically put one foot in front of the other and having a vision. I never knew I'd be on radio for 35 years, 36 years this year when I started. But it has become a part of my life. Adrian said to me one day, Adrian Cadet said to me one day, Richard has worked more as a volunteer in his life than he has as a working individual, working to earn money. So things that become what you can catch on and your strength that you didn't know you have, those are the things that I just want to pass on to the youth to just keep on going, because it started from people like myself and others. Like really and truly, I started doing my program, then I created Black on Black with Jackie Stewart. And then from that came on, then Caribbean Flavor came on with Herbert George or whatever it was called back then. And then till he left the program, and then Mikey and Keisha took it over. So all those things people come to see and hear now, but it all started from somewhere. What if I didn't stay? What would happen then? Mikey heard my program when he came to go to school here. Where did he hear it? In a mall. In a store, in a mall that he never thought whoa, what's this? Is what he said. There's always some guy at the university. What? So, just being able to impart information to the youngsters or the young people that are coming up, to just make them know where we're coming from so that they have a strong foundation. Without a foundation for them to stand on, they have nothing to look back to and say, here we are, and this is what we're doing, and this is what we can do. Because I said earlier, now they have come together with the knowledge that they have learned now. They become more cohesive. And because of all that, growing up in this time, especially in a social world, social media and everything else, they have more to come together. People can't tell them when they come here that they're not good enough for this anymore. Or we have to put you back a grade because you came from the Caribbean and you don't have that knowledge. But yet still, the kids that went to school in the Caribbean came up here with better knowledge and learned more because of the fact that they had an English school system, right? And they had to pass all these tests to get into high school, right? Common entrance exams and so on and so forth. So based on all of that, all that was a sham, right? That was something they used to push you to the side, right? So now, as different generations come, they can't use that no more. They got the knowledge, they got the education, they got the strength, and they have the wisdom.